very good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's USITT New at Noon. My name is Cody, and I'll be your host of these New at Noon sessions every Monday through Thursday at 12 noon Eastern Time, right here on Zoom and Facebook Live. Thank you so much for joining us today. This week's online education and training sessions are sponsored in part by lightingtrainer.com. Thank you to Lighting Trainer for your generous support of our virtual programming. If you haven't already checked them out, please do so, as they have an abundant database of resources to utilize and brush up on learning and training during this time. Although our conference may have been canceled due to the global COVID-19 pandemic, our commitment to education and training has not and will not stop. Each day, USITT will be offering at least 2 educational sessions, Monday through Thursday, New at Noon and Forum at 4. So what are these? What is New at Noon? This series features some of our new products that would be featured at our new product showcase each year, and this year specifically in Houston. We will also be introducing you to new companies that were set to exhibit this year with USITT, and also new and emerging technologies. Luckily, with our new virtual environment, we're excited to still be able to bring you this programming through this online platform. Our other series, Forum at 4, will take a selection of sessions that were to be hosted in Houston at our conference and turn them into this new virtual stage here through Zoom. These webinars are brought to you by various USITT commissioners and exhibitors themselves. The great thing about these webinar series is that you get a chance to really get involved and have your questions answered by the industry experts and leaders right here live in front of you. You can find more information on all of these offerings and register them for free, which I know right now is everybody's favorite word, on our website at www.usitt.org. So be sure to check that out. And every week we post, every Friday we post the schedule for the next week's offering. So be sure to check that out tomorrow. Or sorry, on Friday. With that being said, we are excited today to have 2 guests on our show. We have Aria Grosvenor and Ryan Kanarek from ACT Lighting. Aria and Ryan, before we get started, can you hop on and tell us a little bit about yourselves and ACT Lighting, please?
Sure. Aria, you want to start? Shall I start?
You're in charge, Ryan. Go.
Okay, I'm in charge. My name is Ryan Kanarek. I'm the software support manager at ACT Lighting, doing MA support and training. ACT Lighting, we are the, among other things, we are the exclusive North American distributor of MA products, also Ayrton products, Robert Juliot, MDG, Chainmaster, AC Power Distribution, Rapco Horizon Cables. Did I miss anything, Aria? I always feel like I'm forgetting something. I think that's it. Aria, go for it.
Hey, I also work on the software team over here at ACT Lighting. And fortunately get to do a lot of these trainings. So I am very excited to share with you new features today.
Thanks to Brad reminding me, 2 relatively new products that we've picked up recently are Luxabel fixtures and ZacTrack for real-time 3D position tracking. Thank you, Brad.
Awesome. Thank you so much both for joining us today and presenting. For those of you that may have questions throughout the session, you can use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen there. Type those questions in. Me or Ryan will get to those and get those answered for you. You can also use the thumbs up button by the question. If you see something that you like, that'll just upvote that question and get it to the top of the list as well. So your question will be answered a little bit quicker. If we get a ton of questions today, which we hope we do, if we don't get a chance to get to yours, we will be sure to get those answered to you. You can also check in with ACT Lighting support team, and I'm sure Ryan will be able to give you those details as well. Ryan, just to get us kicked off today, you mentioned earlier when we were chatting that you all recently partnered with CalArts for a credit class on a 4-credit class for MA programming. Can you tell us a little bit more about this and what that all entails?
Yeah, so Tony Camerata, our product education manager, and Brad Nelms, our West Coast regional sales manager, partnered or talked with CalArts about this. Basically, it's as you said, it's a 4-credit class provided by CalArts. With it's basically the focus is MA programming, so that when they do their later projects, when they do their later design projects, they won't be tripping over learning new desks. So, so I believe it will be offered every fall for CalArts students. And if anybody, we are more than happy to work with other colleges or universities that might want to implement something like this. So if you are a professor at another university that might be interested, or if you're a student, talk to your professors and feel free to email classes@actlighting.com, and we will do our best to work with you. The program, from my understanding, involves again, Tony would have all the details on that, but I know it involves some online work on our ACT Academy, and also some in-person work with one of our training staff. I mentioned ACT Academy there. Separate from the CalArts program, we have our own ACT Academy. It's academy.actlighting.com. If somebody wants to stick that link in the chat there. Or yes, Aria also has that on her screen. So as you can see right now, all of the courses we offer online, there's 11 different courses there. Those are all free until June 1st with that promo code ACT4ME, ACT, the number 4ME. I think, let's see, we offered this we started offering this in mid-March, and I think in that, it's been almost a month, and in that month we've had something like 4,000 or 5,000 new students register, and something like 17,000 course registrations in that time. So lots of people are doing this. There's a ton of information on there, .2, grandMA2, and grandMA3. And we're actually even right now working on a third grandMA3 course. There's 2 on there already. We're working on a third one, which will be up hopefully in the not too distant future. And we are also updating the existing grandMA3 ones continuously with information for new software versions. So we've already, I don't think they're not updated yet, but we've already gone through the existing course and figured out the updates that we need to make for the new version, which we're going to talk about today.
Awesome. It sounds like you guys have a lot of content there for everyone. And just a reminder to all of our viewers out there, we have included this link on the USITT resources page, which houses a lot of content from all of our industry partners and members. With, you know, a lot of people are opening up their training profiles and portfolios for free right now. So it's a great time if you have some spare time on your hands, which probably all of us have a little bit more of these days, to go ahead and brush up on those skills and learn as much as you can during this time. So we've included that on the USITT resources page as well, and on our social channels.
Cool. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, you guys, I wanted to first off just say a quick apology. We had a slight delay in starting the meeting today. We were just trying to get Facebook Live up and running, and as you can imagine, with all of these live feeds and streams that are going on, it was a little bit challenging today, but we got it going. So hi to our Facebook Live viewers as well. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you guys. I'm here in the background if you need anything.
Cool. So mostly what we're going to be doing today is focusing on some of the new features of the grandMA3 version 1.1 software, which was released a few weeks ago. As we're going through some of these features, if you have questions, again, feel free to put those in the Q&A. If you have questions about sort of using MA3 generally, we'll see if we have the time to get to some of those at the end. Any questions that we don't get to, of course, always feel free to email support@actlighting.com, and we'll happily answer those with our entire team. So on that note, Aria, if you want to take it away with some of the new features for, especially for on PC.
Yeah. So if you are familiar with new software versions, you're probably familiar with the fact that we put out release notes with every single version. Every time, you know, a new software comes out, the help manual is going to have lots of new stuff in it, but you're gonna need to know exactly what that new stuff is, and that's found here. So my favorite thing to do, as soon as I get new software, I download it and I start at the top of the release notes and I start working through it. So with you guys, I wanna show you a few of my favorite little highlights. One of them is the shortcuts. So as you're familiar with from grandMA 1 and 2, we have keyboard shortcuts when navigating around on PC, so that I don't have to go in here and click when I want to select fixture 101. Please, I could do that a little bit quicker. To turn on my keyboard shortcuts, I press this little button right here in the corner, and then I can see underneath each of the buttons is the keyboard shortcut that I would use to press on my keyboard itself. These are the defaults, and you will notice a lot of them are exactly the same as MA2. So if you are already familiar with your MA2 keyboard shortcuts, you don't have much new to learn here. There's just a couple of new ones. The keyboard shortcut to turn on and off keyboard shortcuts, it would be your F10 button. So I can use that to turn them on and off as well. Another fun feature is we've all come to know in MA3 is the color theme. So if you find you're like, you know what, I have this like purple color really doesn't fit my vibe programming, I'd like something like yellow. You can hop over here into desk lights and color theme, and everything in the MA3 is customizable. So I can go ahead and I can first turn off keyboard shortcuts so I can type. I can find the shortcuts color here, and I can turn it from this purple to, let's say, yellow. And now when I look here at my keyboard shortcuts, hey, they're yellow. So that's just another example of how everything in the desk is fully customizable. And then if you're familiar with the console, to get back to my default color theme, I would hold MA clear. And now this is possible on PC as well by holding Shift delete. And now I can see my color theme went back to the default. So a couple fun little tricks there with keyboard shortcuts. I'll probably use them for the rest of this webinar because I absolutely love them. So I encourage you, if you don't know keyboard shortcuts, that you get to know them. It'll definitely speed up your on PC programming.
Quick question here, Aria, or answering a question. There was somebody on Facebook Live asked if there was a way to simulate key pressing using OSC. Not currently, however, OSC does allow you to, or the MA implementation of OSC does allow you to send commands, like just command strings. So you could also just have a command string that would put whatever it was in to execute that command. Also, while I was checking something, did you show where to modify the keyboard shortcuts?
Oh yes, really a shortcut to get to this too would be right-clicking here on the shortcuts button. And now I'm in my shortcuts list. It is linked with your user profile, so I could have different keyboard shortcuts from Ryan if we like to press the buttons in just a slightly different way. So I could go through here and I could just edit this with what I would like to type instead.
Sweet. Okay. Screen scaling, I think, or display scaling, I think, is our next topic.
Yeah, so as you've probably already noticed that when you pull up on PC onto different screens, you actually get a different amount of screen real estate. If I hop into my little gear menu over here and then in configure display over here on the right in the display section, we have added a new feature here. So I can see that my width and my height of my screen currently is 17 by 7. However, if I wanted more screen real estate or maybe a little less because I want the buttons to be bigger, I would go play with the scale here. I can see by default I'm set to 1x, but if I want more room, I set it to 0.75. Now I can see my width is 24 and my height is 11, giving me this much more content to draw my views. If I find that this is too small and I actually want to zoom in further, I can change the scale here. This is going to be great for the different monitors that you will run into because they are all going to have a slightly different scale, and so you can go ahead and quickly adjust that here.
Cool. And one thing to point out here is that that scaling option is not just available on PC, it's also available for the external monitors that you might have hooked up to your real console. So if you're using a gigantic monitor as an external, like a 27-inch or 40-inch monitor on your as your external monitor on your console, you could also adjust the scaling there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Next, should we take a look at queue only?
Yes. Alrighty. So over here in this view, I have a few queues stored, and as in 1.1, if you were programming, you would notice that there was not actually a queue only option yet for when I was storing a new queue. For instance, if I wanted to store a blackout queue in the middle of a bunch of queues, I would notice that my blackout values would just track. So now I can go in here and I'm going to go ahead and grab 2, and I'm going to put them at 0, and I'm going to store this as queue 3.5. Now, in my pop-up, if I just want to store queue only, meaning I don't want these values to track, they're only specific for this queue only, I'll go ahead and I'll toggle on queue only and I'll hit OK. Now those values, that 0 value cannot track into the next.
Cool. There's also, you want to show the option for that in the store menu?
Oh, yes. So if I long press my store button, just like with MA2, I pull up my store options and I can see that this queue only option was added here. So if I just wanted to store one queue as queue only, I could long press my store options, toggle this on, and then store my queue, and it would be a temporary queue only store.
Awesome. And then there's, of course, the save preferences option there if you
Correct.
wanted the queue only to be enabled by default. Cool. Next, we have a similar but kind of different feature called tracking distance. Do you want to show us how that works?
I'm going to start with a really simple example here, and we're just going to grab one fixture here, and we're going to put it at full, and we're going to store it into this sequence. Okay, so I can see I have my one queue stored into sequence 3, lights are at 100%. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this light down to 50%, and I'm going to store it as Q2. Awesome. And then I'm just going to give myself some more queues just so for this example. So store Q3 through 5. Great. So Q1, lights are at 100%. Q2, I can see they are at 50%. And that 50% has subsequently tracked through Qs 3 through 5. However, let's say I only wanted this 50% value to exist in Q2, and I really wanted the 100% to track. This is all made possible now with the concept of tracking distance. I decide how many Qs I want my 50% to track from. So you're always going to assign the tracking distance in the queue with the original values, therefore the queue with the cyan text in the tracking sheet here. I have this tracking distance column right here, and I'm going to go ahead and right click on it to get my options. There's 2 different ways I can tell this 50% how long I would like it to track. If I want it to track up to Q4, I would simply type 4, please. Hey, look what happened here. So I can see that my 50% went to Q4, and then after Q4, Q5 actually took the value of Q1 because I said, hey, 50% only track to Q4. That's the distance I would like it to track. That's why we call it tracking distance. But like I said, there's 2 different methods for this. Let's say I don't want to specify a queue number, but I want to say I only want you to track for 1 queue. This is when I would use this delta button, and I would press 1. So what that's saying is 50% only track 1 queue more. It doesn't care what the queue number is. So I could add in a 2.5, and then it would only track to 2.5 instead of going all the way to Q3 if I had specified Q3.
Or if you had to get a gap of a queue, like if there was no Q3 and Q4 was your next queue.
Right. So 2 different ways to look at it. Keep in mind though, tracking distance has to do with the entire queue. I don't get to specify this per attribute. However, I'm not going to say it's not possible because it definitely is. I'm going to go ahead and set up my next queue sheet using part queues and set my tracking distance there. So another feature in MA3 that has been available, but if you are not aware that it is there, when I put a preset into the programmer and then store it into a queue, I can have it store into a different part automatically. That's going to be found here in the Windows settings for any of your preset pools. So I'm going to go in here to dimmer, and I'm going to set the part mode for dimmer to 1. Okay. So now anytime dimmer gets stored, it gets stored into part 1. Oh wait, sorry. No, I actually want to keep that as the default. Now, it's part 1. And then I'm going to have the position, and I'm going to set that to automatically store into part 2. And then I'm going to set the color to automatically store into part 3. So now anytime I activate these values, and sort into a queue, they store there. I'll show you what I mean though. So I'm going to go ahead and select group 2. This is my Mistral's gridded group. I'm going to put the lights at 80% on the singer and in orange. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and store that as into sequence 4. I'm going to select sequence 4 by tapping on the sequence 4. And I can see, hey, I have Q1 here, and then I have a bunch of parts. Okay. Let's store Q2. Again, my fixtures are still selected. Let's put them at 60%. Let's put them on the drummer, and let's put them in green. Okay. And I'm going to store Q2 through 5, just like we did with our last example. All right, let's go ahead and just look at the sequence sheet now, as I have made it kind of complex here. And if you're not already familiar, the sequence sheet doubles as the tracking sheet. So to turn it to track sheet, I'm going to hit the track sheet button in the title bar. Perfect. So now if I hop on over here to color, I can see, all right, I'm going to unblock the whole sequence. So I'm getting all of my tracking values. Draw sequence. Perfect. Now I see all my magenta values. All right, so I can see dimmer in Q1, Q2, Q3, but I can see that it's only in its part. Same with color and position. So if I only wanted the position to exist for Q2 and I don't want it to track any further, I'm going to set my tracking distance for part 2 of Q2 to be delta 0. Hey, now my position is singer in Q1, drummer in Q2, and then singer through Qs 3 through. Whereas color, I can see is still orange, and then green, and then it green tracks. So as you can see, this could get quite complex and is really exciting at the same time, because now I can change what values are tracking from where. Ryan, have any questions, or did I miss something?
No, I think that was pretty good. Yeah, a delta of 0 is essentially Q only for that Q part. I think that was a pretty good explanation. One thing that may make this another way that I've seen this explained, which sort of makes sense in my brain, is that tracking distance in MA2. Let's say you had a look that you wanted to bring up in Q3 and then wanted to turn it off in Q5. And so what you might have done was put that on a separate sequence or on a separate executor, and then trigger that executor from your main sequence in Q3 and then turn it off in Q5, right? Just using the command cell of Q. What tracking distance allows you to do is basically you put that into the same sequence rather than having to use a separate sequence. So tracking distance is kind of like temporarily overlaying a separate look, whether that's a single fixture, a single attribute of a single fixture, or 1,000 fixtures running a phaser. whatever it is, you're sort of temporarily overlaying that, but within the same sequence, as opposed to using a separate sequence that you're triggering. We did have one question about Q only. Does Q only modify the intensity values, or any non-intensity values affected? If you want to take a look at that.
Q only is going to be for the entire Q. So whether you're talking about position or shapers or color, whatever values those are, I am storing them into this Q only. So it doesn't matter what attribute it is.
Right. So it's the attributes that are included when you store. When you choose to store Q only, whether that's whatever those attributes are, which could only be dimmer if that's all you have activated, or could be anything else. Cool. Moving on to our next. By the way, as we're going along, if you think of other questions about previous topics that we've already covered, feel free to ask those as well. Let's see. Moving on to our next topic, there were some fun new things added to layout views. Take a look at those.
Yes, I'm going to toggle back over to my handy dandy release notes here and hop on down to the layout view. So layout views were actually implemented in 1.1 and 1.0, but in 1.1 we got a few new features. So you might already be familiar with layout views, and then this is going to tell you where to take what you know and add on to it, what our release notes are here for. So I got here, I'm going to go over here to my layout view, and I can see I have a layout already made. A handy feature that was added here is the ability to lock the layout. So as you can see, I can zoom in and I can zoom out of my layout view, but let's say I zoomed it just where I wanted it to. I want it right here. I don't want to see the other lights. This is how I want my layout view to be. This is when I would use the lock position tool. So up here in my layout view settings, I see that I have this lock position icon. It's currently gray, meaning it's off. If I click it and toggle it to yellow, then I know it is on. And I can see, hey, you can't see, but I am scrolling my mouse and it's not zooming out. You'll also notice that the fit type and the zoom to fit buttons were grayed out because now I have locked it into this position. If I go ahead and turn it back off, I can see that these buttons come back and I could hit zoom to fit and voila, it zooms to fit. When you are within this lock position mode, I can still edit my layout view and move fixtures around. That is totally possible here. So it is not limiting you from this function. However, if I had my layout view all set and I was like, I like it this way, no one's gonna change it, I don't wanna move any more lights around, I don't want to accidentally move any lights around. That's when I would lock the layout pool as a whole. So I can do that by typing in the command line, lock layout 1. Hey, as soon as I did that, you'll notice another button in our title bar grayed out. That is the mode button. So I am stuck with mode normal. I cannot get into setup, therefore I cannot accidentally move any icons around in my layout view. If I want to go back to being able to edit it, then I would type unlock layout 1, boom, and then my mode, I can change it back to setup if I so desire. Okay.
You can also do that if you open the edit layout menu.
Right, click on it.
That was the little lock icon.
Oh yeah, padlock, found it. It's up here. Look, hey, I've locked the layout elements. That's cute. All right. So speaking of editing layout views, we have an awesome new tool. I'm gonna hop over here to my complete gray layout. And I'm gonna grab my Mistral's gridded group and I'm going to assign it with my handy dandy assign shortcut of Alt-A into this layout view. Hey, hey, all the lights are there in a straight line, but in my rig, as I can see here, they're actually laid out on 2 different sticks of truss. Therefore, I probably want it to look like that in my layout view. I can toggle it to set up here. So I'm now editing the elements themselves. And if you look down here at the encoder toolbar, I can see that I could just move them around X, Y position, rolling my encoders. That's all fine and dandy, but I would really need some shortcuts to make this go a little faster. So I'm going to toggle the function from position rotation to arrangement. Now I can see this little purple, like this is where it will move once I hit apply. Those fixtures. So I can change the layout type from line to grid. It's looking a little more like I want. I have 12 fixtures in each stick of truss, therefore my columns will be 12. And my rows, I'm going to set to 2. I can change the column interval to kind of spread them out. And hey, that looks a little more like how I want it. So I hit apply and I can see that all the fixtures were moved there, like so. Perfect. So this is going to save us a lot of time when arranging our layout views. There are other options too. Let's toggle back over here. I can see beyond grid, I also have circle. So hey, for a laid out a circle truss, I could very easily change how I want them to go. Maybe my truss a little bigger. Apply. So yeah, the 3 options right now are line, grid, and circle.
Sweet. Yeah, before I'm expecting at some point somebody will ask about arranging based on the 3D camera angle. That has not been implemented yet, but of course we do have that on the list.
We are.
Aha! I see somebody just asked that. So yes, that option does not exist yet, but it will be hopefully coming in the not too distant future. Cool. Oh, you can also make use that circle tool to make a spiral or an arc as well if you.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry, wrong button. This one. And if you hadn't, already noticed, all I'm doing is I'm clicking on the encoder here and I'm spinning it left or right, like I would spin an encoder in real life. So it's another little on PC shortcut.
Yes, and if you have a mouse, a real mouse with a scroll wheel, you can also place your cursor over the encoder and just scroll with the wheel.
You can't see it, but that's what I'm doing. Yeah. I promise.
Sweet. Cool.
Yeah.
Next, a few options were added for 3D. You wanna, or in patch relating to 3D, I guess is a better way to describe that.
Well, I'm going to start in 3D. So I'm in 3D here, and I go, you know what? I really want to select these fixtures. So I go ahead and I lasso them, and oh man, I selected the truss too. I don't want that. I just want my environment to just kind of exist there. This is a feature that's been added into patch. So I'm going to head up here into my little gear icon, hop into the patch. And if you haven't already noticed, when you first go into patch, it's actually in condensed mode. This is to keep, if you're a new user and you don't want to be overwhelmed by all the patch options, condensed mode is great. If you're just literally just like, I need fixture IDs, fixture type, patch, well, I don't want the other info, condensed mode is for you. However, in this instance, I'm going to toggle it from condensed to full, so I have all of the possible options for these fixtures. And I'm going to scroll all the way over here, and I have a couple new columns. I have 3D selectable and 3D visible. So if I don't even want to see the fixture in 3D, I could just toggle that. So I scroll down here. Actually, I'm going to minimize everything first. All right. Scroll down to my environment group picture here. And I can click on the environment and then hit select down. And now I have everything selected within that grouping picture. And then I can use my keyboard arrows to toggle over to the 3D selectable column. So I go ahead and right click in there, and now it's not selectable in 3D. I'm also going to go down here to my geometries. These are my my stage and my people, and I'm going to turn their 3D selectable feature off. close out of the patch. And now if I go ahead and clear out my selection and try this one more time. Hey, I only selected the fixtures this time. So now I can really use 3D as a selection tool as well and not have to worry about selecting the truss in the meantime.
Awesome. A couple other sort of quick hitting new features. You want to take a look. There's a new tab in the add new window pop-up.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this screen by hitting delete the screen here. And when I go to draw a view, in my add new window pop-up, I have the 4 tabs you're already familiar with, and then a 5th one. It's called all. What this is it's every single view in the desk just in this one tab. So if I don't know where it is, I don't want to search for it, I don't want to have to look for it right now, I can just go over here, start typing layout, and hey, I can see my layout pool or my layout view. If you also want to view this window and say, you know, I don't want to see any presets, I can toggle off presets, and now this list is only going to show me stuff that would be a sheet or an other. Or maybe I only want to look at possible sheets. Hey, I have my options are DMX fixture or sequence at this second time.
Cool.
Quick little feature for you.
Yeah. DMX refresh rate. I think that's our next.
So, oh, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 30, right?
If it's fixed, yeah.
Yes, okay, great.
Fixed rather than variable, not fixed rather than broken.
Yeah. If it's broken, it's not 30. If I go over to, I'm going to go back into my menu and I'm going to go to output configuration so that I'm looking at my different outputs here via on PC. And I'm going to toggle it from condensed to full. Okay, so in this full mode, I can see for XLR-A that it's shooting out universe 1 and it's going out. Out is the default state of all your DMX ports. And when it is set to out, it is sending out a DMX refresh rate of 30 hertz. Correct. Yes, Ryan's nodding, so I'm doing it. If I go ahead and toggle it to RDM, now I'm not only sending out DMX, but I'm also sending out any RDM. So if I need to talk to my RDM fixtures, like my Aria fixtures, I can do that by toggling to RDM. But this will also drop your DMX refresh rate to 2.5.
2.1, I think is.
2.1. I was close. I was off by like 0.4. So why is this important? Well, if I'm just sending out static values to my fixtures, then they've received one value. They've already received it. So the DMX refresh rate could slow down to 2.1. But if I was sending out like a phaser value or my values were changing, the desk will automatically jump it up to 30 when these changes are happening when I am set to this RDM mode. If I'm set to just out, then it's fixed. It stays at 30. It's not going to drop. It's important to know this because not all devices like the change in the DMX refresh rate. Some devices are like, great, we love it, this is awesome. But you could have a device that's like kind of just shuts off when it drops below 30. So this is just something to keep in mind as you're using this feature with your fixtures.
Cool. I guess you could talk about Park real quick, and then we'll get to a few questions that have been sitting here.
Cool beans. Yes, so if you have used Park in grandMA2, I am happy to say that you can now use it in grandMA3 as well. I'm going to go ahead and open up my DMX sheet and my fixture sheet here. Brilliant. You might ask, hey, why is this red over here? This is because I'm just on PC, so I don't actually have any parameters, and the DMX sheet is letting me know, hey, you have this patch, but you don't have any parameters to output it. So that's what that little red is indicating there. Park is going to work pretty much the exact same way as before. I'm going to take my Mistral and I'm going to put it at full. And I can see my values reflected here in my DMX sheet. And then I'm going to go ahead and press pause, let's park in the command line. And I can go ahead and tap on fixture 101. I can see my super familiar blue bars right here in the fixture sheet. And I can also see that the DMX sheet has very like blue, I am parked here. So if I were to go ahead and clear my programmer out, I can see my dimmer is going to in fact stay at 100% because that's where I parked it at. Unpark is also going to work in the same way. I hit go plus twice. If I just want to unpark position, I then tap on the position.
You don't have 101 selected.
Oh, duh. Okay, this is why there's two of them. Oh, now I just unparked the whole picture. Anyway, let's try this again. All right, so I'm gonna put the picture at full. It's selected, and I'm only gonna park dimmer this time. So pause, click dimmer, boom. As soon as it happened, I saw dimmer is just parked. So as you can see, very similar to MA2. It's just now in the DMX sheet, it's very like I am parked correctly.
Yeah, and another cool thing is that not just with park, but with all sorts of these commands generally, the sheets are interactive. So like you could put park in the command line and then lasso attributes or fixtures or DMX channels in the DMX sheet or the fixture sheet to park or unpark those directly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you know, our favorite little shortcut of unparking everything. Go plus, go plus. Go plus, unpark, DMX through, please. Boom, I unparked everything in my shortcut.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Couple things to come back to. We have a question from Facebook Live. Will tracking distance stop a phaser? Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think one way to think of it is if only if you told that phaser to stop in that range of cues, right? So if you didn't store, so if you had a color phaser running, and then you store position information into the cue part that you then set a tracking distance on, that's not going to affect your color phaser because it's a different attribute. Whereas if you had a position phaser or a color phaser running and then you stored a static color value in a new cue part and then set a tracking distance on that, then when that tracking distance ends, yes, the color, so that will stop the color phaser because it's a new static value. And then when that tracking distance ends, it will go back to running the way it was before.
Mm-hmm. I can show a quick example too if we want to.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I have a color phaser here for my LED wall grid. So I'm going to grab it and I'm going to put it at full. And I'm going to go ahead and just put it in green. Okay. And then store this into sequence 10. So that would be Q1 and sequence 10. I have the green. I can see it was automatically stored into part 3 because that's how I set my color presets to work. So then I go ahead and store Q2, and I'm going to use this phaser that I have created here, and I'm going to store this as Q2. Great. So toggle over to color. Sorry, store Q3 through 5. Gotta get some tracking information as well. All right, so I can see this phaser is tracking from Q3 into Qs 4 and 5, but I really just want it to live in Q2, so I go ahead and I set the tracking distance to delta of 0, and I can see now that this green value is static, and it jumps over, and it will be what Qs 3 through 5 are looking at, while Q2 only looks at the phaser value. So phasers are just presets. So any example that I show you with a preset also applies to a phaser. It's just a phaser happens to be moving, and a preset is just static. But no different rules just because my preset has some movement.
Sweet. I think that's about it as far as the questions specific to these new features. I think we have a few more minutes. We can jump to a couple questions just about general MA3 stuff. Again, if we don't get to all of your questions, feel free to email support@actlighting.com. We'll be happy to answer anything there. Can you explain the difference, or can you explain what classes and layers are used for in patch?
Yes, I can. I'm going to go into my patch here, and let's go ahead and create classes. I'm going to call them Trust1 and Trust2. Okay. So my Mistrals 1 through 12 exist on Trust1. Okay. And my Mistrals 13 through 24 exist on Trust2. So if I were to go ahead and I was using my filters in my patch, so I toggle on my filter here, and I just want to look at the Mistrals, I would filter down by fixture type to Mistral place. However, this does not show me just one of my trusses. And I want to keep them all into a specific grouping fixture because I want to go select all my Mistrals, so I can't filter it that way. So what do? This is a perfect time to use layers or classes. Either or works fine. I chose classes in this instance. So now I'm going to just clear out my filter entirely so I have my whole patch back. And I could just filter down to the class of Trust1. And now my patch is only showing me the lights that live on Trust1. Now in my show file, all of my Mistral, all of Trust1 is just covered in Mistrals. So it's not too hard to decipher in the patch. But if I kept my patch organized by fixture type, but I had 3 different fixture types on Trust1, I would go ahead and assign a Trust1 class to those fixtures so that when I'm in my patch, I could quickly filter it down to just that specific truss. Layers, you can do the same with layers. If you are familiar with layers and classes in Vectorworks and you already have a really good organizational style there, maybe you would do something similar here as well. So it's totally up to you. The developers left it open-ended so that you can decide what works best for your workflow. This is just one example of why I might use it.
And additionally, if you're already using Vectorworks, in the lower right corner of the patch window, you'll see there's those buttons that say Import MVR and Export MVR. So that's a format that you can use to move your patch between so MVR is part of the GDC and GDCF are part of the same standard. And so anybody can implement MVR. grandMA3 has already implemented MVR. Vectorworks has already implemented MVR. I believe there's, I want to say there's like a fountain visualization program that has implemented MVR. But the idea here is that, like, let's say you did your drafting in Vectorworks, you could then export the MVR file, import that into MA3, and the layer and class information from your Vectorworks file would automatically be filled in there as well. And any information that, if you started with your grandMA3 file and filled in layer and class information and then exported MVR, the layer and class information from grandMA3 that you had put in would go back to would go back to Vectorworks as well. Maybe one more quick question here. Cody, if that's okay?
Yeah, absolutely. We can do one more question and then we can wrap it up from there.
Okay. Apart from changing colors of keys / shortcuts, etc., is there a general color scheme menu? I'm finding the rather dull gray scheme somewhat hard to look at for any length of time. Can you, yeah, maybe you can show a little bit more about color theme and customizing?
I would love to. Okay. So the gray is intentional, right? It's a palette for you to decide what you want to pop out to your eye. Anywhere you actually see color is also extremely intentional, put there by the developers for your eye to be drawn there. For instance, down here in the encoder bar, I can see my absolute relative fade and delay and the phasor values. They have colors already. Then there you'll see other color pops like the tracking sheet, selecting, blah, blah, blah. All of those things, very intentional. However, it might not be your favorite way to program. You want a little less gray. I totally understand. I go into my main menu, and then I go up here to Desk Lights and Color Theme. Within Desk Lights and Color Theme, I can hit Edit, before I hit Edit, I can change the active color theme from the default to Daylight. Super fun, right? It like inverts everything, kind of like MA1 mode. I get really nostalgic some days, so that's what you mean. But if you're outside, this is really what it's designed for, not nostalgia. But I'm going to toggle it back to default. Okay.
Yes, so just to jump in here. Yes, you're young, but you do have a ton of experience programming MA1.
Yes, I have programmed more MA1 than any other MA classes. So if I go back to my Desk Lights and Color Theme, I can hit Edit, and this is the entire theme. So this menu is split into two different sections. You want to think of the left side, this section over here. This is like presets, and this right side is everything in the console you can change. There's a lot, trust me. One thing I like to point out particularly is the title gray color. So I'm going to go ahead and search title here on the left-hand side and title here on the right-hand side. And I can see that this title gray that's over here is used for the background here, for this background here, etc., etc. Bunch of them are using this title gray. I could change it just for title buttons, but maybe I want to change the title gray across the whole console. I go ahead and I change it on the left-hand side. Again, it's like changing a preset. If I change it in one place, it changes all the other keys in the desk. Maybe I want my title gray to be a little more lavender. Okay. Hey, what changed? The title bar of all of my menus. So now I can see I have this beautiful purple here surrounding all my menus, making all the buttons on the menus pop out a little more because they stand out and they're not gray on gray. So this is just one small example of what you can do. Sometimes it's just a matter of like clicking through here and being like, okay, well, what am I looking for? What is it called? It'll probably take a little searching as you get used to what everything's titled, but you're gonna have a lot of fun, trust me.
Yeah, so the left-hand column is the sort of the color, the base colors, and then everything on the right are the UI, whatchamacallit, the UI pieces that are referencing those colors.
Yep.
Cool. I think we're about out of time here. Any questions that people have that we didn't get a chance to answer here? Again, feel free to send an email to support@actlighting.com, and we'll be happy to answer that. Again, also check out the ACT Academy, right? If you want to show the homepage there again. Again, through the end of May, we're ending June 1st. That promo code ACT4me that allows you to access any of those courses for free. I think that's it. Cody, over to you, or back to you.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, Aria, Ryan, and ACT Lighting for this session today. We really appreciate it. Like Ryan said, be sure to check out the ACT Academy. We have those links on our USITT resources page, as well as our social media channels. So if you can't find it there, find it on our page for sure. We hope that everyone enjoyed this session today, and we look forward to welcoming you back to another one of our online education and training sessions in the near future. Later this afternoon at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, we'll be presenting Forum 4 titled Lessons Learned from Hurricane Harvey. This is the Alley Theater's prop salvage and recovery story. Again, the Alley Theater is in Houston, so it would have been a very topical discussion to have had at the conference, but we're bringing it to you virtually this afternoon at 4 o'clock. And then tomorrow, right here at New at Noon, we'll be joined by Scott Chalfant from Tate. We'll be diving into IQ powered by Navigator and showing you how to access the new IQ training video series that they've just posted online and activated as well. So be sure to check us out tomorrow here at noon Eastern time with Tate, talking about all things automation and Navigator. If you haven't already registered for the session at 4 or for the session tomorrow, please do so on our website. Again, that's www.usitt.org. Also, while you're at it, go ahead and like us on all of our social channels, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. We're all over there, just so that you can be sure to stay up to date on all of the latest USITT news. We'd also like to take this opportunity to thank our friends at the American Society for Theater Consultants for their generous support in making these webinars and broadcasts possible. Thank you so much. If you have a moment at the completion of this webinar, as soon as I end the meeting, we'd really appreciate your feedback on a short survey that you'll be prompted to take. This is just a short survey to ensure that we are giving you all the best content possible and what you need during this time. Once again, thank you for joining us today for today's New at Noon. We really appreciate you tuning in each and every day. On behalf of all of us at USITT, we wish you all the best. Have a great afternoon, and we'll see you right back here same time tomorrow. Thank you. Stay safe, everyone.